Hello, everyone, and welcome to our lecture for this President's Day, Monday, February 17th. I'm going to go through the lecture material pretty quickly if you have any questions. And yes, I said that I was going to have this done today. I had to actually finish the material. So anyway, let's get into this. We're on to Module 5, Single Role Functions, Part 2. These are our objectives. We're going to talk about explicit and implicit data type conversions. Explain why they're important in business perspective. We're going to look at the to-char, to-number, and to-date functions, and then essentially creating the appropriate date and character format for your desired output. That's the key here. So you can breeze through this purpose. It just essentially talks about formatting your text. What if everything was just all words without sentence structure, etc. So you can do that with Oracle and with these functions. That's the key. All right, let's get into data types. The primary data types for our purpose will be varchar, which is variable character, char, which is fixed. And I talk about this number and date. And here are the descriptions of those data types. Remember, I'm just whizzing through this just to give you kind of a hint of what they are. Please refer back to them when you're going through the assignments. Conversion, essentially, when we speak to implicit, this is what the system does for you. Essentially, in the old days, we had to worry about this specific data types to do calculations or pull certain types of data. The Oracle server actually has some automatic implicit functions. Essentially, here's our list of implicit data type conversions, meaning that depending upon your scenario, it will automatically convert. So varchar or char to number, varchar, char to date, number to varchar, and date to varchar. So that's implicit. As far as explicit data type conversions, we can do these four: date to character or char, number to char, char to number, char to date. All right. Here is essentially the format, and you can use it specifically for all of the conversion functions. You'll see here to-char, and then our date, whether it's literal or column, and then the specific format or the specified format. All right. And here's some conversion specific specifications, like if you want to spell out the number as opposed to listing it numerically. If you want to list the number ordinal, which means it's in order, or if you want to remove, well, the TH is essentially for, like the first is usually an ST, second is the ND, etc. And I'm going to show you examples of that. And then FM is used to remove padded blanks or zeros. And here I give you a table that shows all the different format models. These are specifically tied to the date, but please refer back to these when you're wanting to reference. All right. And yes, you can also use these to include time within your date format. And here's some examples. Here we're using the select statement, and we're taking the higher date and placing it in a specific format, month, day, year, year. And then we're taking the higher date, and we're using FM to remove the leading zeros, as you see here, like June 7th, 1994. So make sure you refer to those when you're referencing information. Here's some more examples using higher date FM to remove leading zeros, and then using the ordinal, that TH, so TH or ST or ND. And then finally, or another example is taking the higher date and using FM day, DDth, and then the actual three. Remember, MON is a three-letter month, the first three letters of the month, and then a four-digit year. And then here's further examples. It's just whatever your format, you can essentially format your output based on that conversion for output. And remember, this is essentially for output, no matter what the format of the data is within your table. And then here's a couple, three examples, pushing out the time, and we're using the CIS date, and today is the 17th. So you see here, I started this recording this morning, although I'm completing it in the afternoon. You see, this is 9:02 a.m. You see all the particular versions, hours, minutes, seconds, AM, PM, etc. All right. As far as number conversion to char, with that variable or varchar, the syntax here, oops, to char, the number, and then the format model. And here's the number conversion elements. 9 or nines essentially indicate the type of format. You have currency, you have floating local currency, all of these. So please reference back to these once you, yeah. So as I said, I'm just going to breeze through them. And if you need to reference them, just refer to the lecture material. All right. Continuing. Here's an example. Hope you can see it at all. This is basically taking the whatever number format is for that, whoops, the salary. We're using the salary field, and we're converting that to this 5-digit salary. All right. And here's the elements again as far as currency. It's just an easy way to, or not just currency, but any type of number. So you see here we have currency, we have regular 4-digit with the comma, 4-digit with the decimals, all of this, depending upon what your desired output is. So we're not going to be working on this, but can you name the format of these particular ones? And as you see, I'm giving you the answers for those. Also, you can convert if they're a string, and many times it's inputted as a string, you can specify that conversion from character or char to a number. Basically, that's where the to number, and remember there's an underscore there, to number. And remember, numbers can be listed in your database as a data type, varchar or char. One thing that you have to remember, if you're trying to convert and you don't have the correct amount of digits that's listed in the database, you'll get an error. That's what this slide is indicating. All right. So you see the correct way to illustrate this, that particular number, the bonus number is 4 digits. So that's where hence the 4 nines come from. All right. So to convert character to a date, it's essentially you have to identify the format, well, the non-date string, and then basically, and this is telling you that it looks like, and so the system will recognize it. And as you see here in this example, we're taking that string, which is November 3rd, 2001, saying it looks like this, so it will convert that to a date. And here's some examples of the character to date conversion. Remember, it's to date, and whatever it's read, however it's read in the table, you identify that format, and then it's listed as a converted date format. And yes, please make sure if you have any questions about these, because I'm going through these pretty rapidly, just send them to me via message. The FX modifier has rules to it, and this is one of the ones that you see. Basically, it's punctuation and quoted text in the character format must match the corresponding parts of the format exactly, except for case. So an example of that, you take a look at this. We're using today's date, And basically we're saying match that date that's in that string and display it as an actual date. So this one, it's month. When you use the FX prefix, you're looking for a 3-digit month, a space, a day, a comma, and then a 4-digit year. This one, it has everything, and you'll see this in databases. It has the month all spelled out, the 2-digit date, and the 4-digit year. So you're basically saying it looks like that, and it will produce the actual date. And then finally, so in essence, you're telling the system what this date looks like so that you can convert it from a HR to a date. All right. All right, and that's my rapid version of this first topic. And our terminology here is char date, DD date format, conversion function, FM number, to char, to date, to number, varchar, and the FX modifier. And that's all your conversion functions, single row functions. All right, our second topic is null functions. And basically, these are our objectives. We're going to look at the NVL, the NVL2, the nullif, and the coalesce. And here are our purposes. And just remember, null is a value that is not defined, but it's not zero or nothing. Just remember, it's not defined. So how functions are evaluated? Basically, you can have nested functions. Just remember that the functions are evaluated innermost function first to the outermost. And here, this example, we have to char, next day, add months, which you've seen. And basically, the first thing that will happen, and here, and I listed here, the hire date is going to have 6 months added to it. The first Friday following the day return at step 1 will be identified. That's the next day, and then all of that's going to be converted to a char. So make sure you understand that particular query and how it's evaluated. That is important as to your expected results. Null values are always a challenge, or nulls are always a challenge. You just need to understand what's evaluated and how null is considered. But we do have functions that we can use when we have nulls. The 4 functions that we're going to address are NVL, NVL2, nullif, and coalesce, as I said before. So the NVL function converts the null value into a known value, and this can be very useful. The key here, and I'm illustrating the syntax here, but the key here is that you really need to pay attention to the data type to make sure the data types in that particular column matches your, replacement value. And here's an example. We're using NVL to substitute the internet extensions of these countries with the word none if it does not have an internet extension. And so if you ran that query, you see that Europa Island and Wanda Nova Island do not have internet extensions. So instead of having the nulls there, we're indicating none. And here's another couple examples of replacing a value in a column or a null in a column with a value that we can easily evaluate. So in the commission percentage in our employees, basically we're replacing the null with a 0. And then here's one with date of independence in the WF countries. We're replacing the ones that have null with the 01 January 1999, right? So you can use an NVL function to convert column values. I guess the key here, remember the data type, but you can also use them you can use them to calculate particular values, which can be a problem if it's a null. So here's one again with the commission percentage. Basically, if it's null, you really can't calculate a null. But if you replace it with a 0, then basically you can replace that particular value with 0, which means that these particular individuals do not have commission percentage. Another way to represent that. All right, on to NVL2. NVL2 is a function that evaluates an expression with 3 values. So If the first value is not null, then the NVL2 function returns the second expression. All right. And please reread through these. I'm going through them fast to make sure you understand how the NVL2 works. So if the first value is null, then the third expression is returned. So if it's not null, the second value. If it is null, the third value. If the value in expression 1 can have any data type, expression 2 and expression 3 can have any data type except long. And long is just another essential data type that we're not going to run across in our class, but be aware of that restriction. Here's the syntax for the NVL2. Remember, it has 3 values. Expression 1, the value that may contain a null. Expression 2, value to return if expression 1 is not null. Expression 3, value to replace if expression 1 is null. So an easy way to remember in NVL2 is to think if expression is 1, if expression 1 has a value, substitute expression 2. If expression 1 is null, substitute expression 3. So here's our little example. We're going to use salary and commission percentage. We're looking at commission percentage. And so that's the value that we're testing to see if it's null. If it's null, it's going to substitute it with, if it's not null, we're going to substitute it with expression 2, which is this salary plus salary times commission. If it is null, we're just going to substitute it with the salary. All right. And I do have that information listed in the notes. So in this example, if commission percentage is null, for example, with King here, it's just going to substitute King's salary. It will not do the calculation. But Lotke has a commission percentage, so it's going to add that commission percentage times his salary plus his salary. All right. Okay, make sure that makes sense to you. Okay, our next null function is null if, and it just basically compares two expressions. If they're equal, the function returns null. If they are not equal, the function returns the first expression. So the null if is, the syntax is expression 1, expression 2 within the null if, within parentheses, processed by, or parameters for the null if function. So please take a look at this example. And basically in this query, we're comparing the first name and the last name of the employees. If they're equal in length, then we're returning null, like with Curtis Davies and Bruce Ernest. And you can use that in many ways. And if they're not equal, then we're just returning the length of the first name. Let's see, we have our null if here, comparing these two values. And yes, you can use that with different data types, etc. And then our final null if function is coalesce or coalesce, whichever way you want to pronounce it. This is kind of an extension of NVL. Basically, and coalesce literally means to come together. And that is what happens. So basically, it evaluates each of the expressions. It can have multiple values. And if the first expression is null, the function continues down the line until a not null expression is found. So once, of course, if the first expression has a value, the function returns the first expression and the function stops. And yes, it can be a little confusing, this one, but it can be used in many beneficial business, situations. We'll just say it like that. So if you look at this example, basically, we're testing that commission percentage and the salary and number 10. So if the commission percentage is not null, then it just returns that value. If it is null, then it goes on, checks the salary. And then if the salary is not null, it returns that value and so on. So basically in this scenario, if both the commission percentage and the salary were null, it would return the number 10 as com. Okay. All right. So for this section, we have 4 keywords in our terminology or functions: NVL, NVL2, null if, and coalesce. And then our final topic for this section is date functions. Actually, it's not date functions. Excuse me, let me change that. This is where, so pardon me while I change this. Give you a chance to take a breath. I'm going too rapidly. All right. So what that's supposed to be, I guess I'm supposed to, conditional expressions. Oops. And I will correct that on the lecture again. Put together the lecture, but I forgot to update some of the components of it, which, yeah. This is what happens when you're not checking your work completely. All right. So anyway, let's get back to it. All right. So our last topic is conditional expressions. We're going to compare and contrast the decode and case functions. And yeah, these are our objectives. So the purpose is basically we can control, some of our outputs based on what values are coming back in our statements. And as listed in that last bullet point, a typical decision could be if a business needs to track data over time, then time may need to be an entity, or else time could be an attribute. And that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense now, but we'll call it the decision-making process. And it's just the same as if it as it is in programming. And it's not much different than your everyday life. So think of the last time you had to make an if then else. We all have to make those type of decisions. If I get my homework done before 9, I can watch television, else I can't. Very rudimentary, basically functional, or whatever we want to call those particular items. Decision making. This is where these conditional expressions, this is where they come from. And the two that we're going to look at are case and decode, and they're very, very much different, or excuse me, they're very, very much the same. It's just the syntax that makes them different. All right. To preface this, we've already talked about the null if. It's kind of the same scenario. It's kind of a logical equivalent to the case. It just compares two expressions, and if a certain expression is true, then it's going to return a certain value or set a certain value in your output. There are two sets of commands or syntax that can be used. Remember, we talk about the ISO 99 standard and then the Oracle proprietary. There are two different, and I do want to highlight that again. I want to make sure you all are aware of the ISO, the slight difference between, SQL and the ISO 99 standard and what Oracle has decided to do. So you'll hear me say that throughout the course. I mean, generally our syntax will be the Oracle proprietary statements. All right, so getting back to our conditional expressions, case and decode are examples of these differences. So case is an ISO 99, whereas decode is an Oracle proprietary. So both the statements do exactly the same thing, but it's just a difference. And they both can be read by the Oracle developer. So, and you'll see this subtle difference between the ISO, or excuse me, the case and the decode. The case expression basically does the work of an if then else. Data types of the case when and else expression must be the same. And here's the syntax. Case when, you have your expression when comparison, then return expression one. All right, and I know that looks a little daunting, but let's show the example. So in this select statement, we have select last name, and we're using the case to differentiate the department IDs. We're going to call them department. So basically department ID, when the department ID is 90, then we're going to output management. And if it's 80, we're going to output sales. If it's 60, in IT, and then everything else is just going to be labeled other department. So that would be the syntax to run that type of query, and that would make more sense as far as an output. So you see here, our output or our result table shows those particular departments, just because that's the way we've illustrated that. All right. And then the decode is very similar. Remember, this is the Oracle proprietary. Same type of structure, but we're going to run the same query. You see here, it's a little bit easier, a little bit cleaner, because essentially we're decoding the department ID, giving it a label. So just remember the decode is followed by an open and closed parentheses, and it's a column. So we have last name here, and then all of this code and all of the case, that's essentially considered a column. So make sure you separate your columns with a comma. And as you can see, you receive exactly the same output. So make sure you reference that to ensure that you see the subtle differences between the structure. And that's it for this conditional expressions. So our terminology involves case and decode, and you saw the difference between the ISO 99 with case and the Oracle proprietary with code. All right, so yes, that's my quick and very rapidly buzz through the lecture. Remember that lecture material is or will be posted accurately in Canvas. And if you have any questions, please, over the week, please contact me via Halo message. Let me just go through our requirements for the week, because we're not meeting. So let me share my screen and bring up, not my email. You probably don't want to read my email. If we go into Canvas, all right, so yes, we're now in module 5 for this week, and it's a pretty easy week. So I will post the updated lecture. Just one thing I have to change in there. As a matter of fact, yeah, I'll do that in a second. So that's where our lecture will be, and this video will be there as well. And then you have videos that cover some additional functions like cast. We didn't talk about cast, but please watch that video. And then some nesting functions, a simple case, and then date format. All of these videos are very, very good. So please review those. And then we have our practice queries. There's several in here that will definitely help you understand. And this is probably the week where it's truly important for you to go through these, since we don't get a chance to practice ourselves. And then obviously the practice for each topic and the solutions. And you have three topics, 3 solutions, as usual. I list them as the topic first and then the solutions. Okay. And their format is very similar to the assignment. And our module 5 assignment is due on Sunday, the 23rd. And this has objectives for each of the topics, and then you try and solve it. You have seven questions. Once again, remember to show the queries and the result. Yeah, and the easiest is to just download this document and just paste your results in the document and then submit the document. And then finally, there's the traditional quiz for the week, for those 2 topics: conversion functions, null functions, and conditional expressions. And that's also due on Sunday. So there you go. That is the quick zip through the lecture. I am available throughout the week. Please, if you have any questions, contact me, and I will see you all next Monday. Bye.